All right, hello everyone. So today, we're going to dive into something really fascinating. We're not just going to memorize a vocabulary list about family. Instead, we're going on a bit of a linguistic and cultural journey. We're going to look at how the words for family in Mandarin aren't just words. They're little windows into the culture, the social structures, and the values that have shaped China for thousands of years. Trust me, understanding this is what separates a beginner from someone who can truly connect with the language. So, let's get started.
Okay, let's kick things off with a question you are going to hear all the time. 你家有几口人? Now, the simple translation is, how many people are in your family? Easy enough, right? But if you break it down word for word, literally, you get something a little strange. Your home has how many mouths of people? Mouths? Why mouths? That little word is our first big clue. It's a linguistic puzzle, and once we solve it, it's going to unlock a much deeper understanding of the culture.
So to really get a handle on that question and its answer, we have to deconstruct the pieces. You see, unlike English with its alphabet, Mandarin characters are so much more than just sounds. They're packed with history and meaning. Each character is like a tiny, self-contained lesson in Chinese culture, and we're going to unpack a few of them. Okay, let's start with the first character, ja, which is pronounced ja. This character is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Its origin is just fascinating. The top part, that little cap, is a radical that means roof. And what's under the roof? That's the character for pig. Now, you might be thinking, a pig? Well, think about ancient agricultural China. A pig was a huge deal. It was a source of food, a symbol of wealth. So having a pig under your family's roof, that was the ultimate sign of a stable, prosperous home. This one character tells a whole story about history, connecting the idea of family directly to having enough to eat and being secure.
Now, let's get back to our puzzle piece, the character ko, which as we said literally means mouth. In Mandarin, when you count things, you often need to use these special words called measure words. You might already know the common one for people, which is ge. But when you're specifically counting family members, the correct measure word is ko. And why? Well, it goes right back to that agricultural history we just talked about. A family's size was directly tied to its economic burden. Literally, how many mouths to feed. It's an amazing example of how a very practical historical reality gets baked right into the grammar of the language.
So let's see how this kind of structural logic applies to actual family members. Take the word for mother, mama, mama. We're going to focus on the first character, ma. See that symbol on the left side? That is the radical nu, and it means female. Anytime you see this radical, it's a huge clue that the character has something to do with a woman. Then on the right, you have the character ma, which means horse. Now wait a minute, what does a horse have to do with a mother? Well, in this case, nothing. It's not there for its meaning, it's there for its sound. It tells you how to pronounce the character, ma. This structure, a meaning part and a sound part, is called a pictophonetic compound, and you're going to see it over and over again. It's the most common type of character in Chinese.
And you see the exact same logic at play with the word for father, baba, baba. The character ba is also one of these compounds. The top part gives you the sound, ba, and the bottom part, fu, is the classical, formal character for father. So that part gives you the meaning. Simple, right? Now also notice the repetition, mama, baba. In Mandarin, repeating a character like this often makes it more informal and affectionate. It's kind of like the difference between saying father and saying daddy or dad in English. It signals closeness. Okay, this slide right here, this is one of the biggest mental shifts you'll have to make when learning Mandarin. In English, I can just say, this is my brother. I don't have to tell you if he's older or younger. But in Mandarin, you can't do that. It's not optional. It's a rule of the language. You have to specify. Is he your gaga, your older brother? Or is he your didi, your younger brother? Same exact thing for sisters. Jie for older sister and Mei for younger sister. The language itself forces you to define and acknowledge a hierarchy within the family.
So that brings up a huge question, right? Why? Why is the language built this way? This isn't just a random grammar rule. It's a direct reflection of a cultural blueprint that's deeply influenced by Confucian philosophy. So now we're moving from the what, the vocabulary, to the much more important why. And I can't stress this enough. Understanding this is absolutely essential if you want to communicate effectively and respectfully in a Chinese-speaking environment. The key thing to understand is that these words are more than just labels. They are daily practice of core cultural values. When you choose to say gay instead of didi, you're not just identifying a person, you're defining your relationship and the expected behavior that goes with it. This directly reinforces the hugely important Confucian concept of filial piety, which is all about showing respect to your elders. It also makes social roles crystal clear. A gege, an older brother, traditionally has more responsibility for his younger siblings. This precision in the language leaves no room for confusion and cements that hierarchical structure that is so important to the traditional Chinese family. So if there's one idea you really take away from this cultural part, let it be this. In Mandarin, you don't just have a brother. You have a specific relationship that is defined by age, and that relationship comes with a whole set of expectations about respect and responsibility. Every single time you talk about your family, the words you choose are an active part of performing your social role. Okay, so we've got the linguistic theory, we've got the cultural background. Now what? How do we actually use this stuff in a real conversation? Well, now we're going to put it all together. The good news is, it's actually more straightforward than you might think.
There's a really simple, logical, three-step formula for introducing your family, and it's super easy to remember. Step 1, you state the total number of people using that structure we analyzed, 我家有口人, my family has mouths of people. Step 2, you list the family members. And you do this following that hierarchy we talked about. Start with your parents, then your siblings from oldest to youngest, and finally, step 3, you finish the list by including yourself with the phrase 嘿我, which just means and me.
Let's do a little role play here. I'll be person A and person B so you can hear how it's supposed to sound, the tones, the flow. So, person A asks, 你家有几口人? And person B, following our formula, would say, 我家有四口人, 爸爸, 妈妈, 一个哥哥, 陪我. You see the structure? Total number first, then the list in perfect hierarchical order. Father, mother, older brother, and then finally you end with yourself. That answer is perfect. It's not just grammatically correct, it's culturally spot on. All right, before we wrap up, we have to talk about pronunciation. Specifically, tones. In Mandarin, tones aren't just for flavor, they completely change the meaning of a word. If you get them wrong, well, you could be saying something very different from what you intend. Just look at the syllable ma. With a high, flat first tone, ma, it's mother. With a rising second tone, ma, it's hemp. And with a dipping third tone, ma, it's horse. See? Big difference. And another key point, the neutral tone. In these familiar, repeated words like gaga and baba, the second syllable is unstressed. It's lighter and shorter. Listen closely. It's not gaga, it's gaga. Not baba, but baba. Getting that neutral tone right is a huge step towards sounding more natural.
So, we've come full circle. We started with what seemed like a simple question, and we've ended up with a pretty deep understanding of how language both reflects and reinforces an entire cultural worldview. So I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on as you continue your studies. Based on everything we've talked about today, how does the very structure of a language, its words, its grammar, shape not just what we're able to say, but maybe how we fundamentally see ourselves and our place in our own family? It's a big question, but it's really at the heart of why learning a new language is so powerful. I encourage you all to think about it.